And welcome to Council Wrap. I'm Wes Decker, joined by Hagerstown Police Chief Joey Kifer. Welcome. Long segment for you, or actually several items that you covered in the council meeting, but very important ones at that. And I think especially in light of some of the things that have happened recently, and certainly, you know, we can point back to Senator Quarterman's letter. But these are issues that Hagerstown Police Department and you certainly have been overseeing for a long period of time. And I think one of the contributing factors, as has been cited for issues within the city, is certainly vagrancy. And that was one of the items on the agenda that you and Ashley Roush presented on earlier. And I just wanted to get to some of these things because I think they're certainly worth going over again, just so that people understand. And I think when you look at the way that policing has changed, as you outlined, with legislation dictating, as it has forever, but then the changes in legislation. So give me a little bit of I guess, an overall view of vagrancy and just the way that you sort of, I don't want to say attack, but sort of the way that you strategize to make this problem more palatable, I guess, for the community as a whole, because I think that's what we're really hearing, people really noticing this.
Yeah. Well, and you know, as I said earlier, you know, the problem of vagrancy, and that's a broad term. You know, that vagrancy encompasses a broad spectrum of people. So it's going to cover those that are truly homeless. It's going to cover people that have substance use disorder. It's going to have people that have some mental health disorder. And it's going to have people that are just, they're unemployed. They choose not to work. They choose to hang out on the street. That's their lifestyle.
So their choice is to be unproductive members of society.
Yeah, okay. Unproductive in terms of working.
Right.
And I'm not saying that everyone that we're talking about are criminals, that they've done criminal acts. The large majority of them don't, and the ones that do, a large majority of them that do, are nuisance type crimes. You know, that they're things that, again, albeit crimes, but they're not violent crimes. They're not things that are harming individuals that they come across. But we're trained to be afraid of things that doesn't resemble us and look like us and normal things that we do, right? Yeah. And that's human nature. So I completely sympathize with the community and the people that have these feelings of fear and dread, but it's my job to bring truth to that and explain what that really is. And so when the council asked me to come in and they want to ask questions, I'm going to be truthful about it. You know, but at the same time, I'm sympathetic. So the problem has grown visibly. I think we all can agree to that. It's grown visibly here and anywhere you go. It's grown. But let's just talk about Hagerstown because that's where we work and that's our responsibility. So it doesn't matter that it's happened in other jurisdictions or around the country. This is where it's important at. So it's grown here in the last 5 years. It's visibly different. But what has happened in those last 5 years too, right? So you know, Justice Reinvestment Act gets put into place and laws change, accountability factors change, and with that comes sometimes, you know, in some degree, I think the politics of today, you know, the way that's being handled at the top level of our politics has given people the ability to think that they're not to be held responsible as well. So with the laws and with just the rhetoric and all the stuff going on, that's the new attitude for a lot of people, even people that aren't in the category of vagrancy. That's just where people seem to be a little more than before. You know, I believe the majority of us in our society that don't feel that way, don't believe that way, and don't act that way. But for that population that we see, that we're all concerned about, that seems to be the new attitude. And that makes it challenging. It makes it challenging because you know, the citizenry will go out and try to address it themselves, and they get pushback, verbal, which is scary to some people. So we are trying our best to deal with this new, or not new, but this growing social problem with less tools on our tool belt.
Yeah.
And that's where creating an alternative response team with Ashley, dealing with that, coming up with a policy, unofficial policy, but a policy that we drive our men and women to, which is, advise, cite, arrest, because a lot of the things that we could in the past lock someone up for, we now have to issue a criminal citation for. So basically get a ticket, like a speeding ticket. You get a ticket and you get to walk along your merry way. That doesn't have the same impact.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the impact for the community that's seeing this happening across the street from their house or from their business.
Right.
That, hey, why didn't you lock them up?
Yeah, it's a source of frustration for
It's
them.
a source of frustration, and it's a source of frustration for the men and women that wear the uniform and do
Sure.
the job as well. So it's equally frustrating for us, but we have to work within the confines of the law, and the law says this is what we're allowed to do, and we have to do that. And so we're trying to find innovative ways and ways to make a difference. So I said this earlier tonight, we have our downtown crew comes in early before businesses open up, and anyone that's found vagrancy that's going on downtown, whether it's homelessness or someone that's nodded off because of their drug addiction, we rouse them up. We get them moving. We get them to move along so that the businesses don't come in and have to deal with that.
Yeah.
We're not solving a problem. We're just simply moving that away from the people that are coming downtown.
Right.
And I think we've been pretty successful with that the last several months. Clearly, with what Scott's comments of having 170,000 people come to the stadium and not a single police, no complaints from people that are coming down for those kind of issues. So we've been doing those things that we can do within the confines. But at the same time, we're trying to get help to those people that want help, that need that help, that help with their substance use or their mental health or homelessness. We're working very hard and diligently, again, with our partners, our community partners, and just in-house trying to find new ways to do this ourselves too, because there's just not enough of us all to do that work. So.
And when it relates to substance abuse, because it's something that I think we've heard for months and months, and I'm sure it's true. People have seen it. I haven't seen it personally. Doesn't mean that it isn't true. Again, it's one of those things where it resonates with you when you see whether it is or whether you perceive something that is a drug deal or something that, to that degree. You call the police come and respond. And as you said, with the law today, there's not a whole lot you can do. I think you said decriminalization of paraphernalia, if somebody has paraphernalia, but that's almost criminalization then of policing, because it just takes that out of your hands. As you said earlier, hand them a piece of paper and they just move on their way. And it's like, I just don't understand how that makes sense. Who sat there as a legislator and said, hey, I think this might be a good idea.
It's unfathomable to me in where I live and where I work and where we police. I'm sure that in large part the legislative bodies have taken the more metropolitan area, and they've decided that's the policing all across the state of Maryland, which is how things get done.
Yeah.
And whatever they feel like they think is being done not the way to their liking in those metropolitan areas gets translated to the rest of us. And the value system of different parts of our state isn't taken into consideration. I'll give you an example. The value system here, for as long as I've ever been here, is that if you commit a disorderly conduct kind of thing, you got arrested for that. So if you came from Montgomery County as an officer, you didn't do that there. The value system of the people that lived there weren't expecting you to make an arrest on a disorderly conduct case. So the policing was different.
Okay.
They still had the ability to do it there, but that wasn't the emphasis.
Yeah.
Where here, the small things is what we enforced that helped keep a lot of this stuff tampered down because the small things led you into other things.
Yeah.
If I lock you up for disorderly conduct and I put the handcuffs on you, and then I find you got drugs on you, and then I find you have a weapon on you, or you find something else,
Right.
those are additional charges.
Yeah.
But when you take that ability away, when all I can do is give you a citation, now I've lost the ability to navigate beyond that for subsequent additional charges that could possibly have been there. That keeps you more honest as that civilian doing those activities
Right.
in our community.
Yeah.
And so, albeit that metropolitan communities didn't do that, that was the value system here, and it's maybe the value system is a little different in Eastern Shore, or the value system is a little different further west from us. That's not taken into account when legislators at Annapolis decide to create these kind of laws.
Yeah.
They blanket it across, and it takes away the ability of the policing methods in the different areas of the state that we used effectively and not abusively.
Yeah.
And I think there was just legislative that was looking at, they were trying to take care of abusive policing that, may or may not have happened in the rest of the state somewhere else, but it wasn't happening here.
Yeah. It's
And it's hurt how we do business, and we've come up with ways to try to get around it, but it's just not the same effectiveness that it was before.
no, because it was just so simple, and now that impact is lost at this point. Another thing you mentioned earlier was, what kind of legal issues actually inhibit removing squatters from a property? Because there seems to be some sort of gray area there when, again, it only seems like common sense. If somebody's in a place where they don't belong, they don't own that property, nobody said you can be there, then it should be pretty clear that you can remove them from the property.
So in this particular case, from my understanding, I wasn't there, is that the gentleman that was actually renting the property somehow allowed these other users, drug dealers, or whoever they were, to basically overtake his property. And at that point, I believe he vacated the property.
Yeah, I believe that's what
And
the lady said
He
at
vacated,
the meeting last
he
night.
vacated
Yeah.
the property, but when we show up, it's a civil matter. We don't get to dictate as police officers who has the rights to a particular property like that. So it becomes a civil matter. So there's an eviction process that has to happen and those things. So again, for us, it seems like it might be common sense, and to some degrees it is.
Yeah.
But determining who has legal rights to a property isn't a police officer's job, that's a judge's job.
Wow.
And unfortunately, in that case, we had to do the advisements, and our guys tried everything they could. But,
I'm sure.
but the people that are squatting, they know their rights to some degree,
Right.
and they know how to play that. And in this case, they did that, and it prolonged them being evicted out of that property, for additional time.
Yeah.
And I've talked to the brother of the owner of that property, and he subsequently has said, he knew we did what we could within the rights of what we had to do.
Yeah.
And we tried our best.
Yeah.
But yeah, not every squatter situation is like that. Like I said, if it's just a vacant property and someone's showing up there, that's easy.
Okay.
No one was
Okay.
renting the place.
All right.
You're trespassing. That's different.
All right. Understood.
This was more of a, you were invited in, you were allowed to be here, you're allowed to stay
Yeah,
there by
there-
the person that was there, and now, so now you've established residency because the person that had a legal right to let you there allowed you there.
Yeah, there were some extenuating circumstances.
right.
In that case.
In that
anyway.
case, right.
This whole notion, and I guess we've heard it for the last 5 years or so, and at some point, in some places, I'm sure it was true, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't true here then, and I'm pretty sure it's not true here now. Defunding the police. When I hear that, like last night when I heard it at the public safety meeting, I said, what exactly is that? What are they talking about? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I want to clear the air on that. So what everyone is talking about is the lowering of the authorized strength of my police department. So several years ago, we were authorized at 112 police officers. We did not have 112 police officers. We were down in the 90s. And It was in 2012-ish, maybe a little later than that. That was much later than that. So it was 2000. I'm getting my dates. Anyway, it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
It definitely wasn't 2012.
Yeah.
We started to have a mass exodus of officers leaving the department, which really lowered our numbers down. And we had funded open positions on our budget. I made the conscious decision to approach Scott and this body to ask them to reduce my budgeted strength by an amount that I could take that funding, that money that was budgeted for those positions,
Right.
and put it into the pockets of the men and women that were already still here working.
Somewhat similar to what
I'm
you're
doing
now?
now.
Okay.
Only now I didn't have to reduce my strength to do that, but that's when we did that.
Okay.
And we did that twice to help pay for then the new contract. We reduced again, people that weren't here, positions that were not filled, that were just on my budget.
Okay.
So if I would not have used that money in the way that I've used it, the money would have went back into the general fund at the end of the fiscal year to be used by finance for the things they use it for.
Right.
I simply asked this body to allow me to take money that was already in my budget, repurpose it to enhance the pay and salaries of the men and women here, to entice and encourage and show the respect that they deserve to stay.
Okay.
And not leave this department for another department. So we increased their pay over that time frame. Anywhere it was between 24% and I think 37%, depending where you fell in the pay scale. That is a massive pay raise that has never in my career here ever happened. And that money went to patrol officers, and sergeants got the majority of that money. So command staff, albeit we got our pay raise like everybody else, did not see any level even remotely like that.
Okay.
We purposely created our pay scale to push that money into the patrol officer function to try to build them up where they needed to be, where they should be. And look,
Right.
I will agree with Mr. Harvey's statement last night. I agree. We should make more money than the sheriff's department for the amount of work that we do. But I'm also a realist, and I understand budgets, and I understand that this budget in the city is nowhere near the same budget size as what the county's budget is. So they have more ability and chances to do things than this body and this budget can do here. But I've been very open about utilizing, they've been very, very good to me about allowing me to repurpose my budgetary money to be efficient and to put it where I can use it the best to get the best bang for my buck. And to me, that's fiscally responsible. That's what we should be doing.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
I should be asking you, let me reuse the money now and not ask for new money.
Yeah.
And that's what we should be doing as a government entity, and that's what I've been very proud of trying to do. So that's the defunding the police thing, is that because we reduced staff, we reduced authorized strength numbers, that's been declared defunding the police, when it simply is, I just took that money and said, give me those 7 positions, the money for that, reduce me down to here, and let me put it over here and put it where it's value. That's where that's at.
Okay, good. Hopefully we can move on beyond that. I don't know. That just drives me crazy when I hear that, because I know that was not the case. Another question related to that. Is money the end-all and be-all at this point for police officers? Because, and the reason I ask that, obviously they're going to get a raise, as you talked about this evening, which is well-deserved. But at the same time, I think with the level of competition, and it's almost basic economics at this point, it's supply and demand. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to? What do you want out of your job?
Right.
Has money just become that driver? I mean, it always is, but has it just elevated to the point where that's just it?
No.
Okay.
Money is obviously always that thing that's always going to be on the table.
Yep.
You're never going to, someone's not going to stay here for far less money than they can make somewhere else. But there are other things that the workforce is looking for in today's world, and not just in policing. They want work-life balance, they want pay, they want, in my world, they want take-home cars, they want, things like that.
Yeah.
They want to sometimes not have to, they deserve to not have to work as hard as they're working. So that's where the manpower issue is valuable to give them that relief.
Okay.
So we're looking at work-life balance issues. That's one of the things we're going to be bringing back to the council next month, a topic that's going to cover that. And we're looking at some other incentive-based things that we think is important. We've been working really hard on take-home cars for a municipality. Majority of my staff have take-home cars, believe it or not. Not everybody, but the majority do. And that's unheard of in a municipal police department. It's just something that the county sheriff's departments do and the state police does. But when it comes to city policing, take-home cars are a rarity. And we made a decision, when I first took over and talking to finance and talking to Scott, that, this was something that I really wanted to work on for a variety of reasons. One, that one component.
Yeah.
But two, longevity of those vehicles. They last longer. It's fiscally responsible to do that. We've got cars that are lasting a lot longer today than we did when we were sharing those cars 24/7.
Yeah.
So we've proven that point of concept. But it takes a lot of money to get to that point as well, and we're slowly getting there. And I know that if COVID wouldn't have hit when it hit, we had a plan. We probably would have been there by now. But that kind of game changed us on a lot of things, unfortunately.
For sure.
But no, not everything's about money, but a big chunk of it is.
Okay.
But work-life balance is a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, because
huge thing.
Yeah, because I'm not in your world, and I respect everything that the men and women of the police force do for sure. So I'm not going to sit. I'm not passing any kind of judgment. I'm just asking, because that's the one thing that's been mentioned so much when you talk about defunding the police and the amount of money that's made. Because the other thing was, the police officers in Hagerstown make so much less than the ones in the sheriff's office and surrounding areas and so on and so forth. So you've heard that.
And I have. And a lot of the things that don't get discussed when it comes to funding my police department is all the other stuff that we have that other agencies don't.
Right.
We have virtual reality training, state-of-the-art training that we use, and the guys love that training. Every one of our guys have tasers. Every one of them have up-to-date body cameras. A lot of agencies, even nearby us, not everybody has a taser. Not everybody has that piece of equipment. A lot of agencies, young man we just got from another agency down in central part of the state that's come to work for us, had to buy most of his equipment if he wanted it. Their agency didn't supply it. Wow. So there's a lot of that goes around that people don't understand. Yeah. So we've really pushed the technology part, the drones and all the other stuff. The guys get to fly drones and do things that a lot of police agencies don't get to do. And there's value there, but there's also that money has got to be funded for that, right?
Yeah, you have to have the money.
But the value is it gives the men and women the opportunity to do those things that they enjoy. So that like use the drones.
Right.
But then the value of what we get out of policing using that drone. So we've got the drone for a variety of reasons. That they all work. The same thing with, giving everybody their tasers and having the most updated tasers and all those other things that we do. We're going to red dot optics for our guns, to make us more accurate at our shooting that we have to do. And we're rolling that out. And so if you're a brand new cadet coming out of the academy, guess what you get? You get, you might be a senior guy, you don't get that, but the new guy coming out is going to get it. Yeah. And we're starting to phase those things in. So we're spending, the money appropriately. We watch our P's and Q's and our budget. Mark does a fantastic job, and he's just a guru with all that stuff. And he helps to figure out how we can do a lot of these things with our current budget money, which I'm really super proud of. That we don't come in here asking for any money all the time. And to me, as I said earlier, isn't that what government's supposed to be? Is fiscally responsible with the money that your taxpayers give you to do. So make the best of the money that you have. Yeah. And my budget's never gone down. The budget has never gone down in the years that I've been the chief here. Yeah. It's gone up, and so there is no defunding of the police by this body, and I would never agree to defund my police department because there's just it's unfathomable to even say that.
Yeah. I wanted to make one more point here, and I hate to keep going back to Senator Quarterman's letter, but at the same time, about the time that letter came out on July 24th, it was within the next couple of weeks after that, because we had had 2 shootings here, and one happened at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, the last time I checked, bad guys don't really check their watches and go, well, I don't know, it's 2 in the afternoon, not 2 in the morning, maybe I better not commit this crime. But that being said, within that next 2 weeks, I believe Frederick City had about 5 shootings in the span of, I think, 12 days or something like that. And Frederick is always the model city. People say, why can't Hagerstown be more like Frederick? Those shootings happened, and I didn't hear the type of fallout from 5 shootings in Frederick City that we got from 2 shootings here in within close proximity to each other in the city of Hagerstown. And I just wonder how Frederick got a free pass on that. I mean, I'm not trying to compare and contrast. It's just that people say all the time, man, Frederick, that's where it's at. And then that happens. And I can't imagine how the people in Frederick must have felt about that, because that is not an everyday occurrence for them either.
Right, it's not. And that's the thing. Any city the size of ours, Frederick, you're going to have these little ebbs and flows of little crime spurts. I don't know anything about their shootings. I don't know anything about the ones that, if there were any relationships to each other or not.
Yeah, I don't either.
What I can tell you is that for ours, the shootings that we had, none of them, we actually had 3. We had 3 within a couple week period.
Yeah.
So none of them were related to each other.
Yeah.
They had nothing to do with each other. They were contemporaneous, incidental incidents that happened at that very moment.
Right.
And it's unfortunate. It really is. It's unacceptable. And no one's saying that it's acceptable. The fact that one of them happened in the middle of the day, in a major thoroughfare of our downtown part of our city, it was scary.
It is.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
By all means, and it's unusual.
Yeah.
And,
I'm not setting that aside like, oh wow, that's no big deal. I'm not saying that. I'm just making that comparison.
And I think if it wasn't for that particular incident, it may not have risen to the level that it did.
Yeah.
Because the other incidents happened in areas that most of our community would expect things like that to happen. And that's not being fair. I'm not trying to be callous about it.
No, I understand.
But it happened at certain times of the day in areas that people have expected things like that to happen. Again, completely unacceptable. And for reasons that none of them should have ever happened.
Yeah.
But I can't control human behavior in an instant when it's happening right then and there. No one can.
Right.
And it's not a predictable crime. I can't predict that someone's going to pull a gun out and shoot somebody over an argument.
Yeah.
I can't predict that. And I can't be everywhere I need to be. And I say me, the uniform, the men and women wearing the uniform.
Right.
And on those rare occasions when you are, it's pure luck most of the time that you just happen to be in the right place at the right time, or right place in the wrong time, depending on how you want to look at it. What I will say is that in every one of those incidents, every one of them, even the one we had, yesterday, what happened? We have people in custody.
Right.
We have guns off the street.
Yeah, the response
is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, the men and women last night, foot chases, and within minutes of the incident happening, had 2 people in custody.
Yep.
And within less than 8 hours, the 3rd person was in custody.
Right.
In the incidents that happened during that 2-week span, people were in custody within hours of that happening. No one does it as good as my guys do it on the street. But it's as I said tonight, policing is a reactionary sport. It is.
Yeah.
We try to be proactive, and that proactivity is to say, Wes Decker wants to come into this area and commit some kind of crime, whatever that might be, and you see me in the area, you see me there enough, you'll be like, you know what, tomorrow, I'm going to do it tomorrow.
Right.
And you may not come back tomorrow. You may do it somewhere else, but that's what we talk about when you're talking about diverting crime.
Yep.
Is if you have the intent and you really want to do it, I'm not stopping you. I may just prolong you with my patrolling and being my visibility.
Yeah.
And those are important factors. We want to do that. But the reality is that I can't. If you decide that you walk into a bar tonight to go have a drink and you decide that the person that you get into a shovel match in you want to pull a knife out and hurt them, how am I stopping that? As a police department, I can't. So, policing is all about, it's a team sport. It's a team sport that requires our public to be our biggest teammates. And in order for us to be effective, they need to let us know what's going on. They need to tell us what's going on. They need to come forward and be brave and do those things. And in the same breath, when the arrest is made and it goes to court, they need to go to court and do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because if you want the best bang for your buck, then victims need to be victims when they go to court and not just the day that it happens. Witnesses need to go to court and not be witnesses just when it happened. Because when that breaks down at the courtroom, then plea bargains happen and they get slaps on the wrist instead of, ankle chains and bracelets to be wearing.
Right.
And that's just how that works in the justice system. So it's tough. It's tough in our society today for people to want to carry through and do those things, but it's important. And if this community wants to change what they're seeing and feeling, then everyone needs to be involved. And we're here to be the people that do the work for you, but you need to help us.
Yeah.
You need to help us.
Well, especially in cases like that. I mean, the state's attorney sat right here and said that several weeks ago.
Right.
That the witnesses somehow disappear. Many more crimes are committed now with guns than ever before. It's kind of the tool of choice.
Yep.
Instead of people throwing fists, they pull out a gun.
Yep.
And I guess that leaves. I want to wind this down a little bit, but one of the final questions I have. We see all the time, or I do. Certainly, the posts that you put out on Facebook do a great job of getting that information out to the public. Just what it is that you're doing, and all of these guns come off the street. What is the percentage do you believe of guns that are illegal? I mean, guns that someone does not buy legally that end up being used in a crime. What's that percentage here in this area, do you think?
Pretty much everything that you see us seizing, when you're seeing those seizures, are not legally bought guns by the person that's using that gun.
Wow. That's scary.
That's the reality of that. There's, the legal gun owner, in some cases, have sold their gun for drug because they need money, and they do it. They sell it to a drug dealer, or it's been burglarized and stolen from them, or it's stolen out of their car. Variety of reasons how that gun makes it into the hands of the people that are using them for these crimes. But the legal gun owner isn't the one typically using the gun to commit the crime. They may be giving that gun away to someone that they owned for whatever reason, because of their substance use disorder or other reasons. There's all kinds of reasons, but the majority of the guns you see that we're shown that in our pictures that are seized, they're not from a legally owned gun owner that we took it from.
Anything you want to leave people with tonight in terms of kind of a final statement? I mean, we hit on a lot of different things. I think we got a lot of facts out there, a lot of truth. But anything you want to close with?
I mean, just look. It always seems sometimes like things are really bad, and look, these crimes are heinous, and they shouldn't be happening anywhere, especially here in Hagerstown. And maybe it's a double-edged sword that we put out the information that we do, because we got a lot of people saying we want to know what you guys are actually doing. Mm-hmm. But when you put that out, then people get scared by what they see.
Look at everything that's happening.
And I think, and I'm not saying this to accuse other jurisdictions, but I think a lot of jurisdictions don't put out everything that they do because that message has a dark side to it.
Sure.
So I'm very proud of the men and women that work for this department. I'm proud to be working with them and trying to give them the help they need, and they deserve everything they get. They deserve everything they get from this body. They deserve everything, and they deserve more. But more importantly, I want to say that I appreciate the community here in Hagerstown and the community here in Washington County at large for just the overwhelming support that we all feel that we get from that community as the men and women that wear the uniform, whether you're in this uniform, the lighter blue or gray that the Sheriff's Department wears, or the tan and brown that's the MSP wear. I hear it all the time where I go. People just very gracious, and they know that we're all doing a good job. And And they're not blaming us. They're not blaming us for the activities that's going on. And you know, they're frustrated. I get it.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of really, really super smart people in this community that understand the realities of life. And the reality is this: if you live a lifestyle that has you engaged in the illegal use of narcotics or any other criminal activity, your likelihood of having bad things happen to you by the people that we're talking about in here tonight are elevated. If you live a life that doesn't have anything to do with those things, then the likelihood of you having something bad happen like that to you is almost zero. And they're not targeting you and me, people that don't live a criminal lifestyle. These are engagements of people that have like lifestyles that wind up hurting each other. And thankfully, innocent people aren't being caught up in that. And I'm not saying it won't ever happen, because it does, but they're not targeting those of us that are living that lifestyle that we want to, which is just get up and do the right thing for fellow human beings and yourself. So Hagerstown's a good place. Born and raised here.
Yeah.
My family's here, and if I felt differently, then I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's easy for me to say, and hard for some people to accept that on their end. But don't get caught up with the trolls that are online on every social media post about Hagerstown. Do your digging, do some looking. Look at the post that you see in Frederick City, and you'll see the same comments coming from people that are trolling Frederick City as well. And there's just that population of social media users that have that element, and don't read it. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I think I think that's very sage advice, and always appreciate your time. Always a good chat. We could talk about a million more things, I'm sure, but probably time to wrap this up. So again, thanks to you, thanks to everyone for watching, and I will see you next time on Council Wrap. For now, that is a wrap.